one of the stories about domestic violence is how people abuse people like property, and that's part of the issue of trafficking. Is that certain individuals, what they'll do is they'll try to control somebody, and it's all about the control abuse cycle. Some people come from homes, or maybe they're just drunks, or you don't know why people react the way they do, or why they respond the way they do. The problem about not discussing about what group therapy, what you can learn, and how to illustrate it through play therapy for some children who don't have the communication skills. It's play therapy, but for adults or children who've been affected by domestic violence or grew up around abuse or saw somebody hit them or somebody touch them, and a bad touch is a good touch, to know the difference between what a bad touch and a good touch is. We've learned firsthand, so unfortunately, for some people, you might know a friend or a neighbor or somebody you went to college with, or somebody that it was in an environment where there was abuse. I mean, there are so many issues we need to address, but right here, starting now, when I say that candle is lit, that candle is lit for a lot of reasons. It could be, domestic violence. You might have had a girlfriend that was assaulted by somebody, or somebody was date raped, or, somebody that was hustled on the street, or something like that. There's a lot of things that people use. Cigarettes, they burn individuals, and there's just so many concerns that by the time we really go down the list of things, what I would suggest though is get educated, know your facts, know the information, and how to be a support to one another. Um, Erica Harkema had a book that she had I believe co-authored with another therapist, and it's called Kids Help Kids. It's archived in the Library of Congress. The U.S. Congress, Library of Congress, that is. And um, remember your Bill of Rights. Remember that when there's disputes, when there's concerns, if you can take it outside and address them, because suddenly when we put the spotlight on domestic violence, what we're talking about is what goes on in the privacy of somebody's home, knowing that there's privacy issues, knowing that there might be issues. A lot of people think a security camera is enough, but it's really stepping out in your communities. Maybe you have a housing plan where you can expose the topics that might be important to your community. I mean, a lot of people don't look at domestic violence like the neighbor assaulting the neighbor. They don't look at that, but that is all forms of domestic violence. When people act out on somebody, things like that, those are concerns that should be addressed in the community. So I don't know how people address it in their community, but there's got to be a way to reach out to one another, whether it's doing posters, whether it's looking out for one another, or talking to your neighbors, or going to a school board meeting, or showing up. And making a difference means showing up and showing interest on the things that matter. A lot of people will just pass it off and say, take this passive aggressive approach, but to be honest with you, when people take a passive aggressive approach, it means they're not dealing with things, and it's easier to go drink the problems away, and it's easier to do that, but that doesn't address the real problems that are going on at home. The absence of a father, maybe the mother's working two jobs. I mean, there are all circumstances, but teachers can get involved, community members can get involved, student council. There's all types of issues. By just being a support to one another and not pretending the issue will go away because we stop talking about it, but just extending out, not just talking about it at school, or just but engaging our pastors and our church leaders to engage on the topic of domestic violence. People want to make this about black and white, but it really comes down to domestic violence. Thank you for listening to this post here at the Court of Public Opinion.